Before people knew names for snow or stars, there was a wanderer who walked through frozen valleys. He was once a Viking fighter who carried an axe and spoke only through shouts in battle. After many winters, he grew tired of endless war. He left his clan and walked alone across the northern sea and the deep forests. During that journey, he listened to the wind moving over the ice. The sound seemed like a secret voice. He wondered if the world itself wanted to speak to those who are brave enough to hear. One night he sat beside a fire in a ruin of stone. The storm above him cried in patterns. He noticed repeated sounds, and he made a mark in the soft earth. He pressed his finger again and again, trying to capture what he heard. The marks were rough, yet he felt a change in his mind. He had found a way to keep a sound alive after it faded into the dark. That moment planted a question that grew like a young tree. What if ideas could travel farther than the body? What if thought could live beyond a voice? Many days later, a small group of travelers found him. They were afraid because he looked strong, and his beard held frost and smoke. Yet he greeted them with open hands. He showed the marks he made and pointed to the sky, and then to the earth. He spoke slowly, shaping sounds into repeated forms. The travelers watched and listened. A child in the group copied the sounds and laughed when she understood the meaning. The wanderer felt warmth that did not come from fire. The first simple words moved between them like gifts, and the night felt less cold. The travelers stayed with the wanderer for 3 nights. They shared dried meat and melted snow. In return, he showed them how to shape breath into sound that held meaning. He placed small stones in a circle and touched each stone while making a sound. The group repeated the sounds until the circle of stones felt like a picture inside the mind. They did not know grammar or deep structure. They only knew that one sound meant the circle. Another sound meant the fire. A third sound meant the sky above. At sunrise on the 4th day, the group prepared to continue the journey. The child who learned the first sounds pressed her hand to the ground in farewell. She made the sound for circle and pointed at the wanderer. He understood that she saw him as part of the world that had shaped her first steps into language. He smiled and made the sound for sky and pointed upward. She laughed again. The group left and walked into the white horizon, while smoke rose from the small fire they shared. When silence returned, the wanderer studied the earth again. The marks he made had softened in the wind. He felt the desire to make signs that could last longer. He walked to a fallen tree and used a broken branch of the trunk to carve lines into the bark. Each line held a memory of sound. The process was slow. His hands hurt, and his breath formed mist that looked like spirits above the carving. Yet he remained patient because he had felt the joy in the face of the child. That night, he sat by the tree and repeated the sounds. He touched each line with care. The lines gave shape to his memory, and he realized that language grew from the will to remember and to share. He sensed that the power of speech was like a bridge of light between minds. When the moon rose full above the forest, the wanderer heard distant footsteps. A second group of travelers entered the clearing. They carried spears wrapped in fur and walked with caution. Their faces showed hunger and cold. The wanderer greeted them and pointed to the fire. They sat in silence while the wind moved through the trees. After the meal, he touched the bark of the carved tree and made the first sound he had taught. The new travelers watched without expression. He made the second sound and pointed to the fire. A young hunter lowered his spear and repeated the sound with a rough voice. The wanderer felt a spark inside his thoughts. He spoke slowly again and again. He used his hands to show shape and distance. He pointed to the carving and then to the object it represented. The group began to form the sounds together. They paused between each attempt. Sometimes they smiled when the meaning became clear. Other times they looked confused. The wanderer did not hurry. He understood that the seed of language must grow like moss on stone, with each breath warming the cold surface of time. On the second night with the group, he tried a new idea. He lifted a stick and drew two shapes in the soil. One shape showed a circle. The other shape showed a circle and a single point beside it. He made the sound for circle, then he made another sound that held a slight change in tone. The group repeated the sounds and began to understand a difference between 1 and 2. A farmer among them laughed because the idea felt powerful. Without counting tools, they could speak of number, and they felt pride like fire in the chest. Before dawn, the wanderer saw how each new sound shaped the world. The forest seemed larger because minds could stretch beyond the body. He understood that language could change how people saw the path ahead. It was not only a tool for naming. It was a way to create new thought that did not exist before the sound touched the air. On the morning of the third day, the wanderer watched the group prepare for travel. Frost shone on their cloaks, and the sky looked like polished stone. Before they left, the farmer approached and placed 2 small seeds in the wanderer's hand. He made the sound for 2 and then touched his heart. The gesture held gratitude for the gift of language. The wanderer closed his hand and felt the smooth weight of the seeds. He understood the meaning. Language was a seed that could travel across distances and grow in unknown soil. When the clearing returned to silence, he planted the seeds beside the carved tree. He spoke the sounds he had made and looked at the marks on bark. He wondered if the tree would remember. Days passed without travelers. Snow fell heavy. The wanderer spent long hours shaping new signs. He used bark and stone and the flat bone of a fish. Each new sign held a memory of sound. He began to group the signs. He made a place for things that move and a place for things that stay. He placed the sign for fire beside the sign for warmth. He placed the sign for sky beside the sign for water and wondered if relation could hold meaning beyond the simple name. One night, a storm swept through the forest. The wind tore branches and the fire burned low. The wanderer could not sleep. He listened to the storm and heard patterns like the first night. He tried to mark sound in earth. He stepped outside and raised his face to the sky. The storm voice held motion and rhythm. He spoke the sound for sky, then he shaped a new sound with a rise and fall like the wind. He did not know what it meant, yet he felt it held the idea of change. At dawn the storm passed, and the air felt clear. The wanderer looked at the new sign carved during the night. It did not point to any object. It pointed to motion itself. He realized language could hold ideas that did not live in the hand. It could speak of time and of change. With the coming of the next moon, another group of travelers reached the clearing. They were fewer in number and looked weary. Their skin showed marks of long wind exposure, and their eyes moved with caution. The wanderer welcomed them and prepared a place by the fire. While they warmed their hands, he pointed to the carved tree. He spoke several sounds and traced the lines with his finger. The group leaned in with interest. A woman who carried a woven basket tried to repeat the sounds with gentle tone. The wanderer nodded and smiled, which gave her confidence. He introduced the idea of motion by placing his hands in a slow arc like a branch moving under wind. Then he shaped the sound he had created during the storm. The group listened, then imitated the rise and fall. They understood that the sound did not name a thing. It named an action. The hunter in the group repeated the sound while moving his hand like flowing water, which caused quiet laughter. The wanderer felt joy because the idea had taken form in another mind. Over the next days, he guided the group through the sounds for 1 and 2, then showed how a change in tone could speak of more than 2. The travelers created their own gestures to help memory. They pointed to their fingers while speaking the sounds. They marked small lines in the dirt beside the fire. Slowly, meaning grew like a web of small threads that tied objects' actions and number together. On the last night before travel, the woman with the basket offered a thin rope woven from plant fiber. She placed it in the wanderer's hand and made the sound for thread. Then she made the sound for circle and touched the rope shape. He understood the message. Language ties people to the world like a thread drawn in a circle around community. As the group walked away at sunrise, the wanderer stood beside the tree and repeated the sounds. He felt the meaning grow inside him like warmth rising from the earth. After the travelers left, the wanderer walked through the forest with a rope in his hand. He listened to the quiet rhythm of his steps. Each step felt like a drum that guided thought. He began to speak the sounds for thread and circle in slow breath. The sounds formed a pattern that felt like walking itself. He realized that language could hold music because repeated sound can shape memory more strongly than a single word. When he returned to the clearing, he carved a new sign that joined two older signs together. It felt like joining two trees with one root beneath the soil. During the next nights, he studied the idea of joining. He placed the sign for sky beside the sign for motion, then spoke both sounds with a soft pause between them. The meaning felt like wind in the sky. He placed the sign for earth beside the sign for warmth, which felt like a fire pit glowing in stone. He understood that language could build larger ideas through union. With each new union, the mind grew larger. It could carry more thought than any single body. Several days later, a lone traveler arrived. He carried a broken spear, and his leg showed injury. The wanderer helped him reach the fire and used plant fiber to treat the wound. The traveler was silent from pain. When his breathing calmed, the wanderer spoke the sounds for earth warmth and rest. He used his hands to show the idea of safety. The traveler nodded with tired eyes. Later in the night, he tried to speak the sound for warmth, though his voice cracked. The wanderer repeated it with gentle tone until the sound formed clearly. In the morning sun, the traveler pointed to the carved signs and made the sound for thread. Then he drew two lines in the dirt, one long and one short. He lifted his broken spear and pointed to the lines. The wanderer understood that the traveler had created a new idea. The two lines spoke of distance or journey. Without spoken explanation, the pattern was clear. Language had grown beyond the wanderer and now lived in another mind, shaping new symbols without guidance. For many days, the wanderer and the injured traveler remained in the clearing. The wound on the traveler leg healed slowly, and during that time, the two men shaped new sounds together. They sat by the carved tree at dusk, while the sun made long shadows across the ground. The traveler drew shapes in the soil, while the wanderer spoke sounds. Sometimes they reversed the process, so that the traveler made sound first, and the wanderer tried to catch the meaning through gesture. In this exchange, the wanderer saw how language could rise from more than one source. It was not a single gift from one mind. It was a shared fire that grew brighter when many hands fed it. On the seventh night, the traveler drew 3 lines in a row across the dirt. He touched each line while shaping 3 sounds in gentle breath. The wanderer recognized one sound as the idea of distance, and one as the idea of number. The third sound was new. The traveler pointed to the broken spear, and then to the lines. The wanderer understood the new sound held the meaning of journey across more than one day. The traveler had combined symbol and idea. The wanderer felt awe, because this was the first moment he saw language speak of time measured through human motion. The next morning, the traveler walked near the carved tree. He traced the marks with his injured hand. His fingers moved slowly over the lines, like memory touching memory. The wanderer spoke the sound for thread and pointed to the rope still tied at his belt. The traveler nodded and made the new sound for journey across time. He pointed to the path leading beyond the forest. The message was clear. Soon he would continue his life path. They spent the final night shaping a long pattern of sounds. The wanderer repeated them until his mind held the full chain. The pattern told a story of leaving the clan, fighting long battles, losing strength under snow, and finding help in a quiet forest. When the pattern ended, the traveler smiled. It was the first true story, shaped through language rather than gesture. The wanderer felt a deep warmth, because story made life larger than survival. Before sunrise, the traveler tightened the leather around his spear and placed his hand on the carved tree. He spoke the chain of sounds they had shaped together and waited for the wanderer to repeat it. The wanderer spoke each sound with steady breath. The meaning passed between them like a shared flame. Then the traveler stepped onto the path leading out of the clearing. He looked back once and made the sound for thread. The wanderer answered with the sound for circle. The traveler nodded and walked into the dim light of morning. The clearing felt larger in the silence that followed. The wanderer sat beside the tree and traced the oldest marks made from his first night alone. He could see how each sign led to another. A simple circle had grown into a web of meaning that could speak of sky, earth, motion, warmth, number, distance, and time. He realized that language was not born from strength or power. It came from the desire to share thought so that life could hold more than hunger and fear. The wanderer closed his eyes and remembered the first child who laughed when she spoke a new sound. He felt again the spark that opened the path toward language. When the sun reached its highest point, the wanderer rose and gathered the carved pieces of bark and stone. He tied them with the rope given by the woman with the basket. The bundle felt light, yet it held many winters of thought. He placed it against his back and looked toward the distant hills. He spoke the sound for journey across time. He took a first step with steady rhythm. Each step moved like a note in a song that held memory. As he walked, he shaped a new pattern of sounds. The pattern told the story of how language grew from marks in earth to lines on bark, and then to sound that could carry distance. He imagined meeting new people and sharing the signs. They would add new ideas and shape new sounds. Language would continue to grow like a river fed by many streams. The wanderer felt sure that one day story would fill the world, and each person would walk inside a living web of meaning, shaped by the voices of those who came before.